is my skirt. Is already done. And remember, like I said before, I'm not using mine for I'm not using it as a skirt. I'm using it to attach to a top. And this is actually the top. If you want to see the video, I'll also link that below. So this is the top I'm attaching it to at the top part here. So this is it. So just basically take your center, and for this bottom you can use different colors. You can decide to use center, maybe a different color than the two sides, and then the same color you use as your center pattern, you can use it for the center back. I've seen different colors like that, different 6-piece skirts like that, so that can also be done. So this is mine here, and then I've also gone ahead and attached the flare 6-piece skirt. I'm going to be attaching it to an alternate top. So it's going to be like a long dress. So I'm going to put everything you're going to need on the screen. So the first measurement you're working with is the waist, the length first. So the length I'm working with is 40. I want the length to be about 46.5 plus extra 1.5. That's around 48. So the next thing I'm going to do now is, so the length plus 1.5, half an inch for attaching this to the top, and then 1 inch for folding the end. First, to determine how much you will fold this fabric, what you need is your hip measurements. So what I got for mine is about 3.75. So I added half an inch for seam allowance. So I got this here 4.25. So this 4.25 is what I'm going to use to determine the width of the flare at the bottom. So you can multiply yours by 2, you can multiply it by 2.5, depending on how much fabric you have and how much flare you want to have at the end. So but I'm going to multiply that hip measurement. I'm going to multiply it by 3 inches, right? Because I have a lot of fabric. And to determine how much fabric you will need, just calculate this hip measurement that I'm talking about now. So your hip measurement divided by 12 plus half an inch, right? So this is my hip measurement, 45 divided by 12 plus, then what I got is 3.75 plus half an inch, and then this is what I got finally. So I multiplied it by this measurement I got here, 4.25. I multiplied it by 3, which is what I want to be the flare at the bottom, and then I got 12.75. That 12.75, I'm going to multiply it by 12 because this is a 6-piece skirt and it's going to be folded into 2 when I'm cutting it. So 2 times that's 6 inches, right? Because this is going to be cut on fold. So if you open each fold, you have 2. If you open each fold, you have 2. And that 2 times 6 times that you're going to have it around is going to be the 12. So you're going to multiply that 12 by this the length, the width you're using here. So that's how you're going to determine how much fabric you will need. So right now, what I'm using for the flare at the bottom is that hip measurement. What I got after my hip measurement times 3. You can use times 2. Mostly people use times 2. But if you want more flare, you can use times 2.5 or times 3. So I'm using times 3 because I want a lot of flare. I'm going to mark where my waist is going to start, which is basically on this line here, right? This line here. So what I'm going to do now is my waist measurement. I'm going to put in the waist measurement divided by 12. So waist measurement is 34 divided by 12 is 2.83 plus half an inch is going to give me 3.35. So I'm going to put in my 3.35 here at the waist. So that's what I'm going to add here. Mark it down here. Remember, we've already added our half-inch seam allowance, so there will not be seam allowance here. Then you come down from my waist. This is my waistline, right? Waistline. This is my waist to hip line. If you're working with band, calculate how much your band, the length of your band. So maybe your band might be 2 inches. So you're going to subtract that 2 inches here. So then you know that your waist to hip is going to be somewhere here. Remember, this is going to be somewhat high-waisted because it's going to come up to meet the top I'm adding to it. It's not like a skirt alone. It's coming up. So that's why my waist to hip is like this 10 inches here. So if you're using band, then subtract how much band you will need, maybe 2 inches band. So then you know this is your waist here. And you know, if it's not attached to a dress, then my waist to hip will be somewhere maybe around 8 or so, but it's going to be attached to a dress. So the next thing I'm going to do is come down on my hip line. So this is the hip line. I'm going to add what I have here. So what I have here for the hip line is 4.25. So I'm going to add that here, right? I'm going to put that in here, and then I'm going to come down on this line, mark that 4.25. But what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to subtract about half an inch here, because this person doesn't have, it's just like a normal hip to waist ratio. But if you figure that your hip to waist ratio, maybe you have 3 here and your hip is like 5 here, you're more on the curvier side. When you come down here, you might want to subtract about 1 inch. But since this person is more like, just the waist to hip ratio is just on mostly on the normal side, I'm just going to subtract half an inch. So the same measurement I'm using here, I'm just going to subtract half an inch from it. So I will have somewhere like about 3.9 or so. So I'm going to mark that here, and then from this line now, this measurement here, I'm going to stretch out my, if you have a ruler, that's better, stretch it out and then rule your line down to this point here, this angle. So guys, as you can see, I've gone ahead and marked this to this end here. How I got this line here is just from that same waist measurement you're working with to your knee, but you're going to come up by 2 inches or 1 inch. It depends on how high you want it. You can't put it directly on your knee, because that way you can't be able to move your knee. So you have to come up a little bit above your knee. So with this one here, my waist to knee, the one I'm working with is 21, but yours can be like, you can come up more. So let's say you got your waist to knee is like maybe 23, you can come up by 2 inches more. So the one I'm using here is 21. So that's my knee line, my hip line, and my waistline. So you're going to use your curve ruler, connect your waist to your hip, and then connect the hip to the knee. So guys, this is basically my center front, which is the first thing I'm cutting. The center front is the first thing I cut. So I'm going to just cut this out now. And with this center front, I'm going to trace out I'm going to cut out 4 more that looks exactly like this. And then I'm going to show you guys the only different the changes I'm going to add to the rest of the 4. But I'm going to use this right here now to trace out 4 more. So guys, I've gone ahead and cut it out, so you see what it looks like right now. So I'm going to just go ahead and notch these major parts of it. So I'm going to notch this hip line, the knee line, notch it a little, and then come up to the hip line and notch it also. So now I have notched this. I'm going to start cutting out the rest. So guys, if you're trying to save your fabric, all you have to do is, if you cut one, the waist facing the side, the next one you're going to put the waist facing this side, because now you see this part is like narrower and this part is wider. That way you can save your fabric. But when you can't do this, if your fabric, if it's like transition fabric or it has different design and you want one design at the bottom, then you can't be able to manage your fabric. But if you're working with a plain fabric like this, that doesn't matter how you place it, then if you cut one, you see the last time I cut, my waist was here, and that's why I have this excess fabric left on this side. So, and the tail was here, that's why the fabric is narrower on this side. So now I'm going to take my waist, put it back here, and then cut here, cut the tail on this end, and then next one I'm going to flip it over. That way I can manage the fabric. Guys, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of this that I've cut. So I have 4 of them here. So it's going to be, I already have my center front, which is the original pattern, which is this one here, which I used to cut this 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 that looks exactly like this. This is going to be the center. Remember, this is 6 pieces skirt. This is the center front, CF, center front. So 2 of these will go to the side of this center front. And then 2 of these, so that's already 3 pieces already for the front. So the front is going to be 3 pieces, and then the other 2 are going to be by the sides at the back. So now the next one we have to cut is the center back. And for the center back, we're still going to use this center front to cut it. At this point, if you want, you can go ahead and just, if you don't like this sharp end here, some people normally just come up by 1 inch or 2 inches here, like come up here and then maybe by 2 inches or so, and then blend it in, right? Blend it in this way, come up by this edge here, and then you cut out all these sharp edges here. So let's set this aside and cut the back panel. So guys, this is it for the center back. When you're cutting your center back, just leave about 1 inch distance from the center front here. You see, this is the center front, but I placed it and I left seam allowance for the zip here. This is how you're going to cut the center back. That's basically it. But I'm not going to cut mine this way because I want mine to have a tail at the back, because it's going to have a very long tail at the back. So And if you're cutting your center back, all you have to do, if you're just cutting it normal, like all the skirts are going to be the same, this 1 inch here is just for your zip allowance. So what you're going to do is basically just come back to this waistline, this knee line here. You're going to, if you're more on the curvier side, like I said before, like your hip goes out all the way, maybe your hip comes out all the way like this and then comes in this way, then when you come down to this point here, it's in here, you're going to subtract 1 inch at this, just like how you normally do for a pencil skirt, right? So that if your butt comes out this way, it just it sews in this way and then goes up this way, like it shapes it better. But if you're more like on the normal size, you might just mark about half an inch, right? Half an inch here, and then just curve out that half an inch on that same knee length, curve it out here, and then come down from your butt, like your hip line here. You're going to come down maybe 2 inches below your hip line, which is here, because remember this part might be for your zip, and then you're going to just blend it in like this, like a bow shape, right? It goes in, it comes out here, like you see. This is where you mark the half an inch or 1 inch depending on your size. So you're going to connect it and have this like a crescent shape out here, like something that looks like this, you see, out here. So that's what you're going to have there, but I'm going to cut mine with a tail, so I'm going to start doing that now. So guys, I just wanted to show you guys what this looks like right now. I figured to cut out this side so that it's not too bulky or confusing. So I just cut out that side, but I'll still go back in and trace it out better. So just so you guys can see how to mark the tail. Normally, if you're working with Ankara fabric, what you can do is maybe add, you see I have my 1 inch allowance here. So what you can do, like normally it will look something like this, right? The line goes down this way. So what you can do is at this point, you might give space of 5 or 6 inches at the back here. And then at the end, you might also, depending on how long you want your tail, maybe 10 inches or so, leave 10 inches at the end here. But I'm using this 60 inches fabric, so I gave a lot of space at the back here. For me, I'm using almost like 10 by 10, 10 at the length, 10 at the end. And I'm still going to add extra tail at the center. So I think it's called a gorget. So I'm going to insert the word I'm looking for here. So I'm still going to put an extra tail at the center back. So what you're going to do is, from this point here, you see, like I said before, at this point, you can just cut this out. It's for your skirts, right? Go ahead and join every other thing. But I'm adding a tail. So what I'm going to do is, from this my zip allowance, I have 1 inch here. I'm going to just connect this line here to the end of the fabric, right? To this end, and mark a straight line. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect a curve from this end. You see, I've marked this out here, so this is now my tail. I'm going to also connect this here like a curve to meet this end, because remember, the side of my skirt is this length. So I need this side to blend in with the end, the center back, because I can't have my side this length and then have the back this length. There's no way I can join it. So because of that, I'm going to just move this here and give it a curved shape, right? And make sure I reach that very end. So you see, so meaning my sides will still meet together because they are of the same length. So this is now my tail here. You can also stop at this point, but for me, I'm still going to cut an extra tail to put at the center back here. So I'm going to cut this out now. So guys, you see what this looks like, right? So this is the side, this is what I cut out. So this is of no use to me now. I just wanted to show you guys what the tail looks like. I think you guys can already imagine what this is now. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an extra tail at this end here. But this is not what I'm using. I'm just showing you guys. I'm going to add the tail at this end, extra flay to this here. So guys, yours can end at this point here. So all you have to do is remember to go back in here and subtract the half an inch that we did before, like subtract the half an inch. So guys, that we spoke about, come down from your hip line, 2 inches from your hip line, maybe somewhere here, and then you're going to blend this in, right? Blend this in, come in half an inch or whatever, maybe 1 inch, whichever one, and then cut it out. Basically, what I'm trying to explain is, if I open this up now, you see this is the front panel, 1, 2, 3. You see where I wrote the center front before. But what I did is that I just folded this fabric into two. You know how you normally fold fabric I just folded it into 2, and then I came down to that same around that knee area before, that's the waist to the knee. What I'm going to do, remember what I said before, this one now is on the side. I've already attached the center front. See my center front here. You see my center front is already attached. So you're going to come to that side, because remember the side is supposed to shape you in like this, right? The back is supposed to shape you in like this. So what you're going to do is to subtract. If you're more on the bigger side, like you're more like curvier, your hip goes out more, what you're going to do is to come in by 1 inch. But like I said before, if your hip and your waist, your hip to this ratio is not that much, all you have to do is to come in by 1/2 inch. The same thing you did for that part that you put the zip part, you're just going to blend it in again, right? You're just going to blend it in. The same thing you did for under the butt at the zip part. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to do the same thing on the front, and then you're also going to do the same thing. Join the 2 sides of the back and do the same thing before you now attach your front panel and your back panel. So that's basically it. So guys, after subtracting it, now I'm cutting it out. So you're basically going to cut it out. So remember, like I said, if you're working with a band, remember to deduct the band length that you're using. Maybe if it's 2 inches, then you're going to subtract it before attaching your band. So that's basically it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.